So first, before you apply the prosthetic, it's always nice to be able to paint it so it's easier to work with before it's on the skin. So if you start with a paintbrush that's medium sized and take just a little bit of red and a little bit of black and maybe mix them in your hand so you can see what kind of consistency you have with color. So it'll be that kind of a color. And just go in and paint the bite grooves. Now, your first instinct might be just to paint them completely black, because they are the wound part of it and they are a deep groove. But if you paint them just black right off the bat, it tends to look more hokey, a little bit more campy. And this way, when it combines with the fake blood, it'll give that shiny blackish look. Also, depending on what kind of a zombie or wound that you are doing, you can add greens or blues to make it look more rotted. Yellows and dark greens for a more infected look. This is kind of a fresh bite look. So when you're done, it should look a little bit like that. Don't worry too much about some white spots or not complete blending, because the more rough it looks, the more traumatic the wound looks. So like extending it a little bit out on the edges is always good. And then you'll want to get in some of those pock marks with the same color. Just like that. Now, usually coloration of the rest of the wound will come when you apply it. And so I've applied a little piece on my hand so I can show you just how to blend the edges and get the color on the inside also. The same as with the bite when you apply it. But it's always good to get those grooves before you start applying it, just because they're really hard to get once they're on. So if you take your cream white and just put a little bit on a sponge brush and kind of dab it around the sponge brush so it's even. Then, taking your sponge brush, start on the edges and just blend the edges with the white. Now you can also do this with foundation, but I found using the white cream base is a good way to make colors pop. With foundation it might match your skin tone a little better, but it won't have the same effect. So then, after you have all the white applicated, take a different sponge brush so you don't mix colors too much, and start with this palette and just get a little bit of yellow, this yellow color right here, and a little bit of green. And then it doesn't all have to be that color, but if you just dab here and there, it'll give your skin tone kind of a sick look, like you're starting to turn. Just like that. Now I don't know if you can see the color as well here, it's a little more subtle, but a little bit goes a long way. So the more subtle it is, the more real it will look. Just like that. So then, after you apply the bite and do this effect after applying it, you can take your blood. And I find a very small tip paintbrush like this one works really well. And just get some on there and put it in the wound part. It doesn't have to be precise because blood is very messy. So just like that. And on the bite wound, you'll want to go in all the places that you missed with the grease paint, and you'll just want to dab those with blood. Now fake blood does do some funky things over time. It can dry and flake really bad, or it usually dries a red-brown color. So it's really good for outside of the wound and for stippling. It'll work for just basic costuming, but one thing that I've found really useful is coagulated blood gel. And let me just get this open real quick. Show you what this does. This is rather messy. It's a gel-like substance that mimics blood, and it dries shiny. So this is really good for wounds like the bite wound, because it really keeps it looking fresh and gross and just bloody for hours. Oops. So like, see where it's shiny? That's the blood gel. And it'll dry shiny like that. But if you just have the bottle of blood, that'll work just fine. Just get in all the grooves and get the middle part a little bit. If you're planning on going to a Halloween party or out trick-or-treating, you may want to consider buying a small tube of blood and just occasionally adding some drips throughout the night just to keep it looking fresh. And get all these parts. Don't be afraid to be a little messy. Now after you've done that, you can take a stippling brush and just put a little bit of blood on that. And then when you stipple, it makes it look a little more realistic, like the wound would look. And this especially helps for blending edges. If I apply it to the one that's on my hand, you'll see that it makes it look a lot more realistic just by adding it to the edges and branching out a little bit. Just like that. So it'll look a bit like that, plus the blending on your arm or wherever you choose to apply it after you're done. And it's as simple as that. Thanks for watching, guys.